Good morning and welcome to the Breakfast News on Rajya Sabha TV. I'm Aishwarya Kapoor. Now, our top focus is the Syria crisis. NATO will be discussing a Russia air campaign in Brussels today. We'll get you all the details. Also, we'll get you all the updates from poll-bound Bihar. Let us begin with the headlines. Prime Minister to address 4 rallies in Bihar today, likely to meet poll managers and core group to review poll strategy. Pakistan says setting preconditions for talks won't help to improve relations, says expected a positive response from India on 4-point peace plan, which Delhi has already rejected. Russian warships launch attacks on Islamic State posts from the Caspian Sea into Syria. Moscow says it is willing to cooperate with rebels fighting the Islamic State. US President Barack Obama apologizes for deadly attack on hospital in Afghanistan that killed 24 patients. Doctors Without Borders, which operated a hospital, still demands war crime investigations. And India look for a face saver as they take on South Africa in the third and final T20 match at Eden Gardens in Kolkata. Our top focus, in a sign of its new military reach, Russia has launched airstrikes on Islamic State positions in Syria from the warships in the Caspian Sea. Now, the Russian air campaign in Syria has caught Washington and its allies on the back foot. It has also alarmed Syria's another neighbor, Turkey, which says its airspace has been repeatedly violated by Russian jets. Here are all the details.
Paying little heed to the international outcry against Russian military campaign in Syria, Moscow continues to mount its offensive. Russia has launched airstrikes on Islamic State positions in Syria from warships in the Caspian Sea. Russian Defense Minister said 4 warships fired 26 sea-based caliber cruise missiles, destroying 11 IS targets. He assured there were no civilian casualties during the strikes. The rockets would have passed over Iran and Iraq to reach their targets, covering a distance of almost 1,500 kilometers.
Кроме авиации, сегодня утром привлекли корабли Каспийской флотилии. 4 корабля, 4 ракетных корабля произвели 26 пусков крылатых ракет морского базирования калибра по 11 целям. По данным объективного контроля, все цели уничтожены, гражданские объекты не пострадали. Результаты удара подтвердили высокую эффективность.
Syrian ground troops have also launched an offensive under Russian air cover. Moscow said it is willing to establish contact with the Western-backed rebel group, the Free Syrian Army, to discuss fighting IS and prepare grounds for a political settlement in Syria. But the US Defense Secretary Ash Carter said the coalition forces would in fact not cooperate with Russia, accusing Moscow of hostile actions. The Pentagon revealed they had to carry out at least one safe separation maneuver to avoid a US jet coming too close to a Russian aircraft over Syria. France urged all to seek a political solution or risk a total war that engulfs Europe as well. But Hollande reiterated that any solution has to be based on an alternative to President Bashar al-Assad.
Мы знаем, насколько сложны операции подобного рода, антитеррористические. И, конечно, подводить итоги еще рано, но то, что сделано до сих пор, безусловно, заслуживает высокой положительной оценки.
Oui, ce qui se passe en Syrie concerne l'Europe parce que ce qui s'y joue là-bas déterminera pour longtemps les équilibres dans la région, dans toute la région du Moyen-Orient. Et si nous laissons les affrontements religieux, et parfois entre chiites et sunnites, souvent, toujours même, depuis quelques mois ou quelques années.
Human rights activists have reported the most intense fighting in months in Hama and Idlib provinces. Clashes follow a wave of Russian airstrikes in the same area. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And an apology from President Obama for the deadly American attack on a hospital in Afghanistan. Now, the president calling the accident a horrible tragedy that killed almost 24 patients and medical staff. And despite the apology, Doctors Without Borders, which operated the hospital, is not dropping its demand for war crime investigations.
After struggling to explain how and why the US bombed the hospital in Afghanistan, US President made a call yesterday.
President Obama spoke by telephone with Doctors Without Borders International President Dr. Joanne Liu to apologize and express his condolences for the MSF staff and patients who were killed and injured when a U.S. military airstrike mistakenly struck an MSF field hospital in Kunduz, Afghanistan over the weekend.
But the apology may be too late. On Wednesday, Médecins Sans Frontières, also known as Doctors Without Borders, called for the International Humanitarian Fact-Finding Commission to be activated for the first time since its 1991 creation to investigate the deadly U.S. airstrike on an Afghan hospital.
The facts and circumstances of this attack must be investigated independently and impartially, particularly given the inconsistency in the U.S. and Afghan accounts of what happened over the recent days. We cannot rely on internal military investigation by the U.S., NATO, and Afghan forces.
The hospital building.
MSF also urged U.S. President Barack Obama for an independent international fact-finding commission to be established to probe the bombing, which took place over the weekend.
We are calling on President Obama to consent to the fact-finding commission. Doing so will send a powerful signal of the U.S. government's commitment to and respect for international humanitarian law and the rules of war.
The White House declined comment on MSF's call to activate the International Humanitarian Fact-Finding Commission.
The use of that term carries a certain legal meaning. And there's no evidence that I or anybody else that I've seen or that anybody else has presented that indicate that this was anything other than a terrible, tragic mistake.
The United Nations has also condemned the attack but said it would wait for the results of the US, NATO and Afghan investigations before deciding whether to support an independent probe. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
And news from West Africa, where at least 40 people have been killed in 2 northeastern states in Nigeria. Now, 2 mosques were also the target of the bombings. All the bombers have died. Earlier, Boko Haram Islamic extremists had attacked a rural military camp in northeastern Yobe state overnight, but they were repulsed by troops who killed at least 100 of the insurgents. The extremists have stepped up attacks since President Mahmoud Buhari took office in May, pledging to halt the 6-year-old Islamic uprising that has killed some 20,000 people.
Immediately as he came out, he saw one suicide bomber approaching him. So in the result of to stopping the suicide bomber, so unfortunately the boy, he just grabbed the suicide bomber. So the thing just exploded.
The suicide bomber went into a Fulani hut and gathered the Fulani settlers there, and the bomb was detonated, killing 10 of the Fulani villagers and the suicide bomber himself. The second and third attack took place within Buhari Estate, also in Damaturu.
And let's take a look at what else is making news across the globe in World Wrap. The French and German leaders have urged EU members to act together to tackle the migrant crisis. French President François Hollande and German Chancellor Angela Merkel called for a revamped system for dealing with asylum seekers. They said the current rules requiring asylum seekers to be lodged in the first EU nation they reached were obsolete. Tensions have risen in Israel and Palestine owing to a steady rise in street violence. A Palestinian was stabbed and wounded an Israeli man outside a busy shopping center in central Israel. An Israeli soldier was also stabbed by a suspected Palestinian militant who was later shot down by the police. Now, dozens of Palestinians were also reportedly hurt in clashes with Israeli security forces in the West Bank. The series of stabbings prompted Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to cancel a scheduled visit to Germany. Troops loyal to President Mansoor Hadi have seized a strategic rebel stronghold of Sarwa along the main route to the Yemeni capital Sana'a. Now, Hadi's troops have been making slow but steady advances. Pockets of Houthi resistance remain active in the district. Now, several thousand Gulf Arab troops are providing tactical and military support to Hadi loyalists. US Democratic presidential candidate Hillary Clinton said that she does not support the 12-nation Trans-Pacific Partnership, rejecting a central tenet of President Barack Obama's strategic pivot to Asia. Now, Clinton said that she's worried about currency manipulation not being part of the agreement. Many Democrats, including labor groups, fear the pact will cost manufacturing jobs and weaken environmental laws. The deal, which must be approved by the US Congress, has faced skepticism from lawmakers. 3 scientists from Sweden, the United States and Turkey won the 2015 Nobel Prize for Chemistry. Thomas Lindahl, Paul Modrich and Aziz Sankar won the prize for mechanistic studies of DNA repair. They're working on how cells repair damaged DNA provides new ammunition in the war on cancer, as researchers develop new drugs that target specific molecular pathways used by tumor cells to proliferate. And now news from poll-bound Bihar. Well, shifting focus to the Bihar Assembly elections, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi will be addressing 4 rallies in the state today. The PM will address rallies in Munger, Nawada, Samastipur and Begusarai. Now, all the constituencies in these districts will be going to polls on 12th of October, which is the first phase of elections to the 243-seat assembly. The Prime Minister is likely to make a night halt in Patna today and meet BJP's Bihar Associated Poll Managers and also core group to review the electoral strategy and assess the situation. Well, adding to the flood of poll rhetoric in Bihar on Wednesday was Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi. Now, Rahul Gandhi addressed a rally in Sheikhpura district of Bihar where he launched a scathing attack on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Here are all the details.
1 साल पहले मोदी जी आपके पास आए और उन्होंने आपसे बहुत वायदे किए थे। आपको याद होगा, लोकसभा के चुनाव से पहले उन्होंने कहा कि हिंदुस्तान के बाहर बहुत सारा काला धन है, उस काले धन को वापस लाऊंगा और हर गरीब व्यक्ति, हर हिंदुस्तान के व्यक्ति के बैंक अकाउंट में मैं 15 लाख रुपए डालूंगा। यह उनका वायदा था। मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछना चाहता हूं, इस मीटिंग में कोई ऐसा व्यक्ति है जिसके बैंक अकाउंट में 15 लाख रुपए मोदी जी ने डाले?
Addressing a rally in Sheikhpura district of Bihar, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi targeted Prime Minister Narendra Modi on failing to keep his election promises. According to him, the Modi government is not bothered about the poor people.
बेरोजगारी की बात होती है, देश को आगे बढ़ाने की बात होती है, तो यहां जो युवा आया है उससे बात नहीं करेंगे, किसान से बात नहीं करेंगे, मजदूर से बात नहीं करेंगे, किससे बात करेंगे? पूंजीपति से बात करेंगे। जिसको दर्द हो रहा है उसकी बात नहीं सुनेंगे, उसको सिर्फ अपनी मन की बात बताएंगे।
The 30-minute long speech also included trademark taunts about the Prime Minister's foreign visits.
आप देख लो, मोदी जी की जितनी भी फोटो आपको दिखाई देंगी, उसमें आपको फटे कपड़े वाला कोई नहीं दिखाई देगा। उसमें आपको बड़े बड़े उद्योगपति दिखाई देंगे, बड़े बड़े ब्यूरोक्रेट दिखाई देंगे, अमेरिका से अलग अलग लोग दिखाई देंगे, फेसबुक का कोई दिखाई देगा, इंस्टाग्राम का कोई दिखाई देगा, गूगल का, यूट्यूब का दिखाई देगा, मगर हिंदुस्तान का किसान, हिंदुस्तान का मजदूर, हिंदुस्तान का गरीब, हिंदुस्तान का कमजोर नहीं दिखाई देगा।
Drawing a comparison between Modi and Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar, he said Nitish is the leader of the masses and expressed confidence that the Grand Alliance will win under him.
A belligerent Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi fired yet another salvo at the BJP and rigged up the Sood Boot Ki jibe. Giving pep talk to the party workers, Rahul Gandhi tried to drive home the point that the Grand Alliance was pro-farmer and pro-poor, and if it formed the government in Bihar, then the voices of the poor and the weak would be heard. Reporting from Rohtas, with camera person Sudhanshu, I am Kriti Mishra for Rajya Sabha Television.
And in Breakfast News, we'll take a very short break. We'll be right back.
Political slugfest intensifies in Bihar. national leaders fight a do-or-die battle. Who wins Bihar and who loses relevance? Watch Verdict 2015 on Rajya Sabha television. Get live Rajya Sabha session. News, views, reports and analysis you can trust on social media. Subscribe, follow, like Rajya Sabha television.
Now, President Pranab Mukherjee has made an appeal for tolerance just days after a man was lynched in a village in Uttar Pradesh over rumours that he stored and consumed beef. The incident in Dadri has sparked outrage across the country and raised the debate about religious intolerance.
President Pranab Mukherjee has said the core values of diversity, tolerance and plurality of Indian civilization must always be preserved. Saying that these values must not be allowed to be wasted, the President said they will keep our democracy firm.
These core civilizational values keep us together over the centuries. Many ancient civilizations have collapsed. But despite aggression after aggression, long foreign rules, the Indian society, Indian civilization has survived because of its core civilizational values and adherence to it. And we must keep that in mind. And if we keep that in mind, nothing can prevent our democracy to move on.
The President's remarks come in the wake of the lynching of a 50-year-old man in Dadri over rumours that he stored and consumed beef. The incident has sparked outrage across the country. Even Vice President Muhammad Hamid Ansari had said last week that the state must ensure the right to life to every citizen of the country, irrespective of their religion.
संविधान में नागरिक के लिए सबसे जरूरी चीज क्या? अंग्रेजी में कहते हैं आर्टिकल 21 राइट टू लाइफ, जिंदा रहने का हक. बगैर सुरक्षा के कुछ और नहीं हो सकता है. अगर सुरक्षा नहीं है तो विकास नहीं हो सकता है. सुरक्षा नहीं है तो तरक्की नहीं हो सकती है. सुरक्षा नहीं है तो हम आगे की दुनिया के ख्वाब नहीं देख सकते.
The Dadri incident has been condemned across the country. Opposition parties have questioned what they say is the Prime Minister's silence on the issue. The Home Ministry briefed the PMO on Wednesday after receiving a report from the UP government. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Now, Union Home Minister Rajnath Singh has said that the strongest possible action will be taken against the culprits in the Dadri lynching incident. Now, his statement came as the Home Secretary briefed the PMO about the law and order situation in the village. In a related incident, the local police turned away Vishwa Hindu Parishad leader Sadhvi Prachi from entering the area.
A day after getting the state government's report on the Dadri incident, the Home Secretary on Wednesday briefed the Prime Minister's office on the law and order situation.
चाहे स्टेट गवर्नमेंट हो अथवा सेंट्रल गवर्नमेंट हो, मैं समझता हूं कि यदि कोई भी कम्युनल टेंशन को फैलाने की कोशिश करता है अथवा ऐसी कोई कम्युनल प्रॉब्लम यदि क्रिएट करता है अथवा किसी भी प्रकार का कोई क्राइम यदि वो करता है तो उसके खिलाफ तो सख्त कार्रवाई होनी ही चाहिए. उसे टॉलरेट नहीं किया जाना चाहिए.
According to media reports, the Uttar Pradesh police filed an FIR on charges of attempt to murder and rioting, but not murder. The state government said 8 of the 10 accused have been arrested, but its report makes no mention of beef consumption or cow slaughter.
आज हमारे देश में ये हालत है कि कोई किसी मंदिर में जाकर के उसके लाउडस्पीकर का इस्तेमाल कर सकता है. एक आरोप लगा सकता है कि फलाने के घर में गांव का मांस है, किसी को पूछने की जांचने की जरूरत नहीं है। लोग आकर के उन लोगों को बाहर घसीट करके उनकी निर्मम हत्या कर सकते हैं। असली मुद्दा ये है और ऐसा करने वाले और उनको उकसाने वालों को सख्त से सख्त सजा मिलनी चाहिए।
Meanwhile, peace marches were held in Bisara village, where the victim Ikhlaq was lynched over rumors of alleged beef consumption. His son Danish was shifted from the ICU and has started communicating with family members.
मुझे शिकायत है अपने प्रधानमंत्री से, वो मेरे भी प्रधानमंत्री हैं और उन्होंने संविधान पर शपथ ली है और उन्होंने 15 अगस्त को बीते वर्ष मॉरेटोरियम की बात कही थी। किस तरह के मुद्दों पर मॉरेटोरियम लगना चाहिए, मेरी शिकायत उनसे है। कहाँ ले जा रहे हैं हम अपने मुल्क को? क्या रहन सहन खान पान के मुद्दों पर ही विमर्श होगा?
These so-called cheap political leaders with continued airy silence by the Prime Minister are dividing the very idea of India. They are decrying and denying the diversity of India, and they are attacking the very soul of India.
The Home Minister, the Finance Minister, they both have commented on it. The party time and again has commented on it. There is already more than what is required to be done from the party is being done. At the same time, the PM is a sensitive person. He is seized with the matter. Do not judge him by what he writes or doesn't write on social media.
The administration also stepped up efforts to keep out the leaders of various outfits. Officials also said that prohibitory orders are still in force. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
News from across the border, and Pakistan has said setting preconditions for talks will not succeed in taking the process forward and won't improve relations. Now, Pakistan High Commissioner Abdul Basit said that Pakistan expected a positive response from India on the 4-point agenda put forth by Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif to normalize ties, but India's response to it was not encouraging. India has already said at the United Nations Forum that it did not need a 4-point agenda for talks, but a single-point agenda that assures that Pakistan will stop aiding and abetting terrorism. The Pak High Commissioner said setting preconditions or cherry-picking never worked before, nor it is going to work in the future. I think the environment will improve if the two sides are engaged in talks. To expect that the environment will get better with disengagement, at least I do not subscribe to that, quote unquote. Now, ties have been strained between the two neighbours over border firing and a series of ceasefire violations. Talks between India-Pakistan national security advisors were cancelled recently because of a dispute over the agenda. India wanted to discuss terror attacks and Pakistan insisted on raising Kashmir. And President Pranab Mukherjee on Wednesday lauded the Indian Air Force for not only possessing excellent fighting capabilities, but also for rendering yeoman services in hours of crisis, as he wished the force on the eve of its 83rd anniversary. Now, Mukherjee specially underlined the role played by the IAF in rescuing Indians from war-torn Yemen, those displaced by floods in Kashmir, and those affected by the massive earthquake in Nepal early this year. In a message, the President said, and I quote him now, "The recent efforts of IAF to airlift our countrymen from Yemen, rescuing people during flash floods in Srinagar, and the assistance rendered to the people of Nepal during the aftermath of a massive earthquake is praiseworthy. It bears a testimony to IAF's glorious legacy of valor, courage, and commitment," quote unquote. The Indian Air Force has remained the vanguard of Indian skies, safeguarding the sovereignty of our nation all through its glorious history of 8 decades. Over the years, IAF has evolved into a formidable force with new acquisitions and weapons of great precision. Today, IAF is rated one of the best in the world and has acquired the capability of strategic research and precision targeting. Now, the President extended his greetings to IAF personnel, civilians and their families. And now a look at what all events are lined up for the day in the day ahead. Over 50,000 employees of the Income Tax Department will go on a one-day-long countrywide strike today to press for their service-related demands. The two prominent groups, Income Tax Employees Federation and Income Tax Gazetted Officers Association, represent about 97% of the department's workforce, and have already notified the decision to the apex policy-making body of the department, the Central Board of Direct Taxes. Finance Minister Arun Jaitley will discuss recent developments in the global economy and lack of progress in the implementation of the 2010 IMF quota reforms during his official tour to Peru to attend IMF World Bank meetings. The Finance Minister, in his capacity as India's governor on board of governors of IMF and the World Bank, leads the Indian delegation. The government is likely to seek the constitution of the largest Supreme Court bench from Chief Justice of India on Aadhaar case, restricting use of Aadhaar card only to public distribution system and LPG subsidy. The Supreme Court on 7th of October declined to modify its order so as to allow it to be used also for banking and other purposes. Now, a bench led by Justice J. Chamaleshwar referred the batch of application moved by financial institutions and regulators such as RBI, SEBI to the Constitution bench. Russia's growing military involvement in the Syria conflict is expected to be high on the agenda as NATO defense ministers meet in Brussels today. Now, it comes after NATO member Turkey complained that Russian jets had repeatedly violated its airspace. Ministers are also expected to review a range of measures introduced in the wake of the Ukraine crisis. To sports now. Well, India will look to salvage some pride as they take on South Africa in the third and the final T20 at the Eden Gardens today. The hosts have already lost the series 0-2, but a win would give them a much-needed boost ahead of the ODI series.
After losing the three-match series, India will look for a consolation win in the third and final T20 at the Eden Gardens today. The hosts had put up a massive total of 199 runs in the first match, but were outplayed by the Proteas, losing the match by 7 wickets. In the second, the men in blue were bowled out for their second lowest T20 total. But despite the defeats, India will be desperate for a win to boost their morale before the one-day and test series.
We lost the series, we didn't play as well as we should have, but Eden is always a very special ground for all of us, and obviously winning here will mean a lot to us.
South Africa, on the other hand, would look to continue their superb form and aim for a whitewash in the T20 series.
It is a very special ground, to be honest. It's a ground that has a lot of history, and a lot of players want to do well at this ground in India, me being in particular.
The pitch at the Eden Gardens is expected to be batting friendly, and India will hope that their big guns fire this time. With fate of the series already decided, both teams can make some changes in their lineup. Bureau Report, Rajya Sabha TV.
Let's get you more sporting action in Sports Beat. Sania Mirza and Martina Hingis earned a hard-fought victory to move into the women's doubles quarterfinals of the China Open. Top seeds took an hour and 17 minutes to edge past experienced Italian player of Sara Irani and Flavia Pennetta 1-6, 6-4, 10-6. The Indian men's hockey team levelled the 4-match series 1-1, beating hosts New Zealand 3-1 in the second match. Ramandeep Singh, Nikin Thimaiya and Lalit Upadhyay scored a goal each for India. India had lost the tour opener on Tuesday. The third game will be played in Christchurch on Friday. Rafael Nadal reached the quarterfinal of the China Open after beating Canada's Vasek Pospisil in straight sets. The world number 8 won 7-6, 6-4 to set up a quarterfinal against American Jack Sock. Tournament's second seed Thomas Berdych, however, crashed out after losing to Pablo Cuevas. Members of FIFA's Ethics Committee have recommended a 90-day provisional suspension for FIFA President Sepp Blatter after criminal proceedings were opened against him by the Swiss authorities. A final decision is likely to be made on Thursday. Now, Blatter is accused of signing a contract unfavorable to football's governing body and making a disloyal payment to UEFA President Michael Platini. Well, that's all in this edition of Breakfast News. Thanks so much for your time. Have a great day ahead.